My husband and I rented a cabin near Salt Fork. We planned to spend the week hiking and exploring, but we didn't even last the first night. It was late. We just unfinished packing the car. The sun was disappearing behind the trees. We were relaxing with some drinks on the porch, taking in the sounds of nature. I noticed the crickets went quiet. That's when we heard a scream. It started low, like a lion's roar, but ended like a woman screaming. This thing was close, really close. My husband jumped up and ran into the cabin. He came back out with a piece of wood from the fireplace. I thought, what's he gonna do with that? He struck the wood against the railing 2 or 3 times. I said, "What are you doing?" He shushed me and told me to listen. Nothing. Not a sound. My husband then tried to mimic the scream we heard. It was pathetic in comparison. We laughed a bit, but then it was like an elephant came crashing through the trees. I heard heavy footsteps, branches snapping, and groaning. I could feel the bass in my chest. It stopped just inside the tree line. The groaning continued. Whatever it was, it thrashed the bushes and small trees back and forth. When we regained our senses, we slowly retreated inside while the thrashing continued. Inside, I shut off the lights and we stared out the sliding door. I could see the bushes weren't moving anymore. It was quiet for several minutes. My husband wondered aloud if we were bluff charged. I said, "By what?" "A bear." He didn't know, but it remained quiet, so we went to bed. I woke to a loud bang. I turned to my husband. His eyes were as wide as saucers. We lay there quietly, listening carefully. There was another bang. It came from the wall right by my head. For an hour, we listened to bang after bang moving around the cabin. I had enough. I insisted we leave and stay at a hotel. My husband agreed. We gathered up our things and looked out the front door toward the truck. We couldn't see or hear anything, so we headed out cautiously. We each waved our flashlights around, hoping we wouldn't find anything. As we approached the truck, I couldn't believe what we saw. There were at least a dozen large rocks all over the yard. They must have been the source of the banging. My husband unlocked the truck with the remote. The headlights flashed and the alarm beeped. That must have triggered the animal because we heard stampeding steps coming from the other side of the cabin. We each jumped into the truck cab as quickly as we could. My husband took the driver's seat and I ran around to the passenger side. When I turned to the door, I glanced up at the cabin. Something entered the light from the porch. I only looked for a moment, but I could see it was big and tall. It wasn't running low to the ground like I would expect a bear to do. It stopped at the edge of the gravel where the driveway started. My husband was already throwing it into drive as I was falling into the seat, and we skidded out of there. We drove in silence for a while, not really going in any intentional direction. I told him to pull over at the next lot so we could look up a hotel. When he stopped, he asked if I got a look at it. I lied and said I hadn't. He said he hadn't either. After all that, we decided the trip was over. We left for home the next morning. We've since talked about what we saw. My husband is convinced it was Bigfoot, but isn't that a Washington or Oregon thing? We don't have those here.